Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good versus Good podcast, where common ground begets common good. The focus of this podcast is to invite guests that have different beliefs to read one of my articles observing politics or religion. All the while, we actively adjust our comfort level being exposed to each other's ignorance. Remember, my ignorance censors his truth, his ignorance censors my truth. Because this is not a debate, my guest must decide in real time what is more important, being right or being civil. The guest has the final say. I may only speak when the guest asks me for assistance. At the end of the podcast, the guest will rate my article. I'm just happy someone's reading it. What's more important to you, being right or being civil? Let's find out. How are you, Chris?
Hello, glad to be back.
Good. It's been interesting days. We talked offline, this one's a very special article that I wrote. I would say I wrote for you.
Yay!
Because I honestly, every article I write, I always feel like I'm not quite like I'm losing the battle, but then somehow towards the end, I always conquer it. And this one, for me, was one of my more difficult articles to tackle because of the times we live in, and I just more than anything, I have to find common ground, and I don't care how difficult the topic is, I will achieve it. Oops. There we go. Sorry, the little faux pas here. I had the control panel for my screen. I'll have to edit that out. Okay, whatever. So, whoopsie. No, we could put that back on. There we go. And here's the thing. So as I learn about this format, this is only my third or fourth podcast into this. So the format is in place for people and I who are orders of magnitude apart in terms of politics and religion. Okay? What has happened so far is that my guests are so civil, Chris. There's a civility meter for each per guest. You're clocked in at 120%. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to.
Well, I'm agreeing to come back all this time. I guess I have to be, right?
Yeah. It's like
I'm not turned off yet.
Yeah. So I think we can relax the format. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it's there if when it's necessary, but I think it's clear that we're civil. So let's just discuss this like we normally would, like over the phone or in person. So, but what I will have you do is I will have you read it. At any point, you make comments or you ask me questions or whatever. So I will engage if you want me to, or if I feel like I need to give you context, I will interject. So let's go with that. So I'm hoping this thing's recording. I think it is. Yeah. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, here we go. So this is Trust is Fickle. Okay. Yeah, because we have been talking a little bit about this. So yeah, I'm actually kind of interested to read this for sure. It's just like it sounds. I'm outside my belief bubble. The question is, do I want to go back in? Can I go back? Does belief have a limit? Curiosity certainly tests our limits. Belief is scrutiny. It's an eggshell. Don't live in a shell if you're afraid of the dark. Belief is an eggshell. Do you see the majesty? Intelligence is a curious field of study. So yeah, belief bubbles is something that I think everyone falls into. Even if you are completely aware that you're in a belief bubble, like you still kind of fall into something because you always have your own kind of beliefs and biases. And everything is kind of framed around there. And a lot of it is framed around your own personal experience, your own background, your own history, not just of you, but your people, your culture, your religion, or anything that makes you who you are kind of forms the way you look at things. and it kind of automatically forms a bubble around you. And it's very hard to get outside of that. And if you do manage to do that, it can be very hard to go back in, and you might not even want to, and it definitely does depend. So yeah, this is a definitely something that everyone should be able to relate with if they're being honest with themselves about being within that bubble, and being outside of it is really scary, really hard. Um, okay, so belief is scrutiny. It's an eggshell. Don't live in a shell if you're afraid of the dark. Believe it's an eggshell. Okay, so eggshells, I guess because it is it's all encompassing. Like it's very narrow, it's very small, but it's also easily cracked. So I guess that's probably why you're using that metaphor, because it's always dark inside that shell and it's easily cracked. So our belief can be easily cracked and also very small and narrow. Yeah, it definitely can be. Yeah. So, like once you crack the egg, you can't really put it back together.
Exactly.
No wonder. Sorry, what's that?
Nice. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No wonder there's division. Pity is proud. People love being the victim. Yes. All the time. It is their identity. For some people, it is. Some people, especially like a lot of the culture cancel warriors out there, they live to be, victimized, for that way they can complain about it and always blame other people. Uh, Coupled with the fact that the authority they trust must be certain, or um, be received as
Perceived.
certain. Sorry.
Perceived.
Yeah, I think that was a typo there. Or be received as certain, for victims to remain confident in their chosen prophets, i.e., Donald Trump. Okay, hold on, let me read back there because I kind of got messed up. People love being the victim, it's their identity, coupled with the fact that the authority they trust must be certain or be received as certain, for victims to remain confident in their chosen prophet. Yes, again. If expectations are not met, victimhood would resort to accusing others of wrongdoing. Victims elect based on trust, and it's very fickle. Authorities' livelihood hinges on the approval of hypocrites because victims are uneducated and emotional, which drives their incentive to hold other people's feet to the fire who admits their mistake. If the shoe were on the other foot, victims would choose to learn mistakes are something to avoid. There's nothing to gain. Prophets are aware and take advantage of that. How can we learn from mistakes if no one has the courage to admit them? I.e., econ versus ethics. Oh, I'm looking for okay, there is a natural break. I feel like I'm reading too far without commenting. I like to try for natural breaks. News is happy to distort the facts to paint their opposition as inferior for ratings. Victims watch the news to reaffirm their trust, not question the validity of the source. Alternative media is a cornucopia of distrust of authority. Oh yeah, there's a lot in here, so I have to go back because that's a big chunk. Yeah, I agree with this almost wholeheartedly, 100%. Like this here is one of the biggest issues that I feel that we have today. It's where is it? Let me find it here. Victimhood will resort to accusing others of wrongdoing. Victims elect based on trust, and which drive. Where is it here? Here we go. No one has the courage to admit their mistakes. This is kind of the idea here, because it goes against their prophets, right? Yeah, we had a conversation about this the other day. We kind of talked about this briefly. So again, yeah, so I feel that there's always perception that people will be viewed upon as weak, or inferior or not intelligent if they are seen as valuable, if they seem to make mistakes. And we're always so quick to point out people's mistakes, especially now in the social media age, where someone does a little typo like you did over here, and they like shit all over it right away. Like, okay, so, oh yeah, so, just because you made a little mistake here, that means that everything written here is completely garbage,
Well,
just because you made a small mistake.
well,
You know?
tactically speaking, it's the site's inability to wrap the text properly. You know how it's supposed to wrap
Oh, perceived.
perceived.
Oh, it's perceived. Oh, my bad. I thought it would be received or perceived a certain. Yeah, well, there you go, right? See, like I got confused with that, and it looked to me like it was a typo. Okay, so it wasn't a typo. My bad. But still, someone might like take a over there and crap all over everything because of that one little mistake, and that is not the way it's supposed to be. Like sometimes when I'm trying to, text people, I always make typos because my fingers are too fat for my fingers, and I always like I can't type on a phone, like, at all. So it's always difficult for me to do that. With autocorrect, it often makes it even worse. So yeah, um, but they get so idea of like the us versus them. My identity, my way is right, and anyone else is wrong. That they cannot ever admit that there might be something wrong with them. It doesn't matter what the argument is or where you're at. It's not about having an honest debate or discussion. It's all about being right. Um, I feel like public discourse is too much like sports.
Yeah.
Like sports is like it's entertainment, and like if you're watching a basketball game or a football game or baseball, it doesn't matter what game it is. You have your team that you are rooting for, that you're cheering for, and ultimately you don't really care how you win as long as you win. You can play like the ugliest brand of hockey or ugliest brand of basketball. It doesn't matter as long as you win. The referees make bad calls in your favor. Yay, we got lucky. That's great. But of course, when it happens to the other side, if your team gets the victim of the bad call, everyone's always complaining about the referees. They got screwed and all this kind of stuff. And, they got all upset and all that kind of stuff. And it's very tribal. Like, it doesn't matter how you played the game as long as you end up winning. And that's fine and dandy with sports because sports don't matter. It's just entertainment. If I'm a Toronto sports fan. If the Raptors lose a game, I might be upset for a few minutes, but then I just move on. And that's that. Like, it doesn't affect my life in any way. But unfortunately, the world of politics, that does matter. So, and if people are just trying to win because it's like my team says this is the way to go, and without getting into the nuance of it, then that is a problem. You can't have any kind of discourse or conversation
I think
with that.
you'll read further on down the article, but I think one thing that people don't understand is that fans and voters are not held accountable for their actions.
Of course not. Oh no, absolutely,
And
yeah.
that gives them the entitlement to do what they do, whether that's to you know, throw stuff onto the court if they don't like the player doesn't like what's
Mhm.
going on, or they can trash downtown, get their way. Like there's a true sense of entitlement. Like even if you vote someone that's a terrible
Yeah,
leader, right? Where's the
yeah.
consequence for that? There isn't. It's just
It,
the,
it, yeah, it has to go very extreme for something bad to happen. Like a fan would have to jump into the actual stadium and play, and then actually like get close to threatening like one of the players on the field, or you have to literally break into like the capital of the United States in order to get some sort of repercussions. Where finally there's like a bridge too far, but you can be pushed so much until then. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So yeah, like it's there's a lot of we're lacking a lot of honest discourse when it comes for different ideas, and it's a big problem because usually people are playing sports. And you said something about hypocrites. Here they are. Authorities' livelihood hinges on the approval of hypocrites. Yeah, because so many people they're hypocrites. Where if it happens on my team, it's okay, but if the other team does it, then it is not okay. And there's so many examples that I've seen throughout the media, different ways where people would justify an action from their team, but can totally condemn it on the other team, regardless of what that team would be through politics or sports or whatever, you know. Yeah, and a lot of it is an emotional response. Absolutely, so much of it is emotional. People just want to be right. They want to be, they don't want to be on the losing team, or the losing idea. They never want to be told that they're wrong. People crave that sort of positive feedback all the time. Fake to the fire and make a mistake. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, and yeah, news is exactly what it is. Many news organizations, they're actually, most of them for that matter, pretty much all of them, the main goal is not to actually inform, is to make money, is to, sell some ads. And a lot of times people, they would report the news, not on what's accurate, but based on what their people want to hear. It gets people emotional to hear about how the other side, or people who take a different way, are doing this. Isn't that an outrage? Aren't you upset? We're upset. And then it just drives, again, more more ratings and stuff. They are more than happy to distort the facts, to paint their opposition as inferior all the time on both sides of any kind of politicized media. 100% agree with all of this. And yeah, and this definitely shows our distrust in any kind of media, because nobody's ever being honest. Nobody's ever holding the people who are controlling the media accountable for what they're doing.
And I think that for me, my experience with alternative media is that it's all about market share, right? There's a piece of the pie that's vacant, that people are not, that there's a piece of the pie that's not being taken advantage of, right? And that's where the alternative media comes into play, because they feed on our natural instinct to distrust.
Yeah.
Right. We need a place to go too. It's like and the thing of it is, it's just the same thing. They're going to tell you, even good or bad, it's what you want to hear. I want to hear that the vaccine, for example, is like poison. That's what I want to hear, because that's what I'm afraid of. That's what. Oh no, the mainstream media doesn't say that. I don't trust them. Ooh, you're saying that, Alex Jones? You're saying that? Okay, I trust you. It's it's down to fear and paranoia.
No, absolutely, and that's a problem. Independent media too. A lot of times, it's like they're trying to find their lane and trying to find their audience, and they often have to be more extreme in a sense, because if they're more middle of the road, then they're competing with sort of the big guys. So either extreme one way or the other, where they'll be super critical from the left or super critical from the right of the more central, I guess, big media players. Even if the media players are more right left, like most of the independent media would fall sort of on really hard one end or the other. And that has its own little biases as well, because ultimately, the mainstream media is pro-corporate more than anything else. So no matter what, they're always going to be never critical or super critical of those who are in power. Like in the States, you see the more mainstream liberal media types, I guess, like the NBC types. They'll very rarely criticize the Democrats when they completely deserve to be, because again, they're, that's who they are basically there to support. And the same thing on the more right-leaning channels like Fox in the States. They would very rarely criticize the Republicans when they obviously deserve it, and so it's just more or less to keep the power structure in place. And you often see that. You often see them, put down people who are more of the left of where the typical Democrats are, more to the right for where the typical Republicans are. Although it's actually changing more now that more and more crazies are getting more and more popular on the Republican side, that is. But yeah, it's really tough to filter through even like the independent media. All right. I honestly don't know how empires work, but I'm not cheering for their downfall. Yeah, nobody. Yeah, it's always tough when your empire falls. It's happened many times in human history, of course, but it's always difficult, and usually there's a lot of suffering along. Assuming government is the highest authority in charge, does your government take orders? When they are given orders, at least, they'll know what to do. If they give orders, at least they'll know who to blame. Someone victims don't trust. Yeah, that's right. Remember the adage that you have to fail to succeed? No one you trust seems to fail in government. Why? There's always someone else to blame if you give orders. If you take orders, you are certain what to do. That certainty comes across as confidence. Confidence is the cue victims look for, having no experience understanding the difference between knowing what to do and knowing who to blame. Either way, it brews confidence. Victims don't care how they avoid admitting to their mistakes, and that is why trust is fickle. Okay, let's go back. Does your government take orders? Yeah, 100% they do. When they're given orders, at least they know what to do, and they'll give orders, at least they'll know who to blame. Okay, so in theory, government is supposed to take orders from us, like from the people, because we vote in theory for representatives. In theory, talk to us as constituents and vote based on our own interests. But that's a very naive way of looking at it, because I think you can probably agree with me that that's usually not the case. And there's usually powerful people who have way more influence than the average Joe would around here, and they would give orders based on there, quite often protecting those who are in power. Yeah. Here we go. So where are we here? Yeah, but they'll often blame other people who are not in power for other things as well. That's why, like, the opposition party is always blaming, the people who are in charge for any kind of problems. Absolutely. It's or it's the other side that made them water down their bill or whatever, why it didn't succeed or something. No one you trust seems to fail in government. Yeah, if there's like, especially if you're very loyal to a certain party, it's never your party's problem. You're doing it the right way. It's always someone else who's causing them to fail. It's like the Conservatives, or it's the Liberal Party, or even the Indian people away from where we're at here in Canada. There is always someone else to blame if you take orders. If you take orders, you are certain what to do. It certainly comes across as confidence. Yeah, we're always confident that we're right. Well, I shouldn't say we're all of us are, but most of us are always, especially if you're like knee deep into this, you think you have the answers and you're confident in your answers, and it's hard to look at it yourself objectively.
Well,
confidence is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, for this, what I'm trying to convey is that all you see is that, oh, he's confident, but you don't know why, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It could be.
I get it. Yeah.
Is it because he's been given orders, or is it because he knows who's to blame when something goes wrong? Either way, it builds confidence. So people say, "Oh, confidence," sure. But it's like people don't know why. So,
yeah, absolutely.
If you knew why, maybe you wouldn't vote for him.
Yeah, they have quite often there always is a scapegoat going on. So yeah, like you see it now, like in some places, yeah, like with the COVID vaccine run out, there's always like reasons why, or there's always a scapegoat. It's the reasons why things are not going as well as they are. Lockdowns, if lockdowns happen again, well, we have someone to blame for that. Or if case numbers go up, we got someone to blame. And so you can confidently say what you want to say because you at least have your alibi. Confidence is the cue. Look forward for having No experience, understanding the difference between knowing what to do and knowing who to blame. Either way, it brews confidence. Victims don't care how they avoid admitting their mistakes, and that's why trust is fickle. Cognitive dissonance reveals why maintaining trust requires hypocrisy, to avoid the sunken dread of falling prey to a mistake. Oh no, have I elected a false prophet? Uh-oh, that's disinformation. That's fake news. You are conspiraciers. You're a racist, sheep, cultist. You're wrong. I'm right. Yes. Yeah. So, cognitive, okay, avoids a falling prey to mistake. Yeah. So the people who we trust a whole lot, you know, we cannot admit they make mistakes. We cannot admit that they are hypocritical in some way, because then we have put our trust into the wrong person. And you know, we don't want that. We can't let that chink in our armor there, because it also affects our confidence in what we're saying. You know.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you ever felt the sunken dread of falling prey to a mistake?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like I've never been like that party loyal or anything like that. So I've never been like you know, like super into whoever is like in power, to a mayor, premier, prime minister, or anything like that. And definitely not into the States, because, you know, obviously I'm not from there. So like I don't feel like I have this for like politics, but in my own personal life, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have definitely, I've had that dread of falling for something, you know, like I've had some investments where that's been the case. You know, where I made mistakes with that, and things at work, definitely. You know, there's always been things that that's happened, and where again you believe people who are, you know, wrong, you know, or you trust people end up being untrustworthy. And a lot of times you kind of want to fight that and think, oh no, it's not so bad, it's okay, but then it comes around. I don't think I've come across anything where I felt all of this. You know, because again, like I've never gone head over heels over anyone. Like I've never, even around, amongst celebrities, like I've never been, you know, someone who's really looked up to like public figures. So I've never been this far before, but I definitely have held that dread of like being bamboozled, because, you know, I think we all have at one point in time have had that happen to us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I see this all the time. People are always fighting back, and, you know, knowing they've lost the argument on, like, you know, merit's sake, then they resort to this type of stuff. Yeah.
And again, I'll speak to it further down the article, but the sunken dread is, in my opinion, the perfect way to describe it, because in my journey into my mind, the deepest I ever gone was the type of experience the worst case scenario of absolutely no hope of anything. Like, I know exactly where I'm going, and there's petrified. There's no word in the English dictionary to explain what I felt. I just knew that I fucked up. I fucked up, and I'm gonna pay the ultimate price. And I'll remember that to the day I die, and I hope I never ever feel that again. Because it's the thought of doing anything that would ignite. No way, no way. I don't care what. I'm not interested.
Yeah, I can't really react to that too well, because I don't feel like I've had, like, obviously I've made mistakes. I don't think I've made any catastrophic mistakes like that where it's severely affected, you know, something that like my future or my present or anything like that, right? Obviously, like I could have made better decisions along the way on various things, but yeah, I haven't had that strong of a feeling of regrets or of knowing that I've made mistakes or been bamboozled for that regards. Like everything has been like, somewhat minor-ish where, things are still going to be okay. But yeah, it's tough, and so many people definitely are feeling that way, and that's why they can't listen to the other side, because then they have to admit that they have been bamboozled, and that's a terrible feeling, knowing that you've been, violated in that regards. So that's why sometimes so many people, when they believe something is objectively wrong, and they're corrected on it, a lot of times they'll just double down even stronger. They'll just believe it even more for this definite reason, even though it's been proven that they're wrong about something. Instead of changing their minds and like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that actually makes sense. I think I'm going to change the way I think. No, it becomes part of their identity,
Well,
being that victim or being that theirs. So like they have to double down on it. Otherwise, they have to admit that they have fell prey to a mistake.
yeah, you're happily proving my point as you dive deeper into this. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to your reading.
here we go. A leader that takes orders. Sorry, a leader that takes orders follows. Yeah. A leader that gives orders disregards victims' trust. Why? Promises are meant to be broken because it keeps victims. Nothing satisfies hypocrites more than complaining about other people's mistakes. Yes, 100%. Yeah. Do you see why hypocrisy is so pervasive?
Pervasive.
Yeah. Their trust lies within forgiven mistakes, i.e., their infamous blackface scandal. Victims forgive solely to avoid experiencing the guilt and shame they themselves deserve. There is no accountability. There's incentive to forgive those they trust because the guilt and shame gives them an identity designed to receive pity and donate their forgiveness with pride to others, like a mini prophet receiving forgiveness.
It's
Receiving forgiveness. I'm trying to see, like, I'm trying to find natural breaks to pause.
yeah.
So I guess I'll pause here since I'm there. Let me go back. I have to reread this again, actually, because I lost my train of thought. Promises are meant to be broken because it keeps victims. Nothing satisfies hypocrites more than complaining about other people's mistakes. Do you see why hypocrisy is so pervasive? Their trust lies within forgiven mistakes. Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. To me, the yeah, like that's a tough one, because I was one of those people who did kind of like forgave him for that, and I'm not going to get into like the whole debate about that per se, but like, you have to allow some people like a way back, you just can't shit on someone forever because of one mistake on both sides. Like a lot of times people are even who are more right leaning, like they make mistakes, and if they should be allowed to change. It upsets me whenever I see people who, they get called out on for something they might have done or said in their youth when they're still formulating their ideas, before they had a change in heart, and it discredits everything they say afterwards. Like it's tough, like we grew up in the 80s and 90s, like, it was a lot more acceptable to be racist, and or to be, like, I shouldn't say racist, but to be, casually racist. For Halloween I was like 5 or 6, I don't remember exactly how old I was. I For Halloween I dressed up as an Indian. I was an Indian, I had the feather and everything, and nowadays I'm like, oh God, that's terrible. I would never do that, but like that was a thing. So like I do kind of like give him a small pass for that one, but again, like, it's not right, and he wouldn't do that now. So like it's you know it, yeah, I know exactly what you're trying to say, because I'm one of these people but it's not so much for me experiencing guilt as I know that there's been so many people who might have lives ruined because of one little mistake they've made that nowadays in hindsight is like terrible. So like, I can't think of an example of someone on the other side where something happened to them on like when they're really young, where people kind of forgive or forget. Do you know anything? Is there someone more on a conservative side that's had a scandal similar to this, John?
Uh,
I don't know.
I don't like you can
I can't think of
we
any. I
can't,
don't know.
but
I just don't
it's
know.
not like it's not exclusive to any one party. So
I know exactly. Yeah. Like if something came out when Doug Ford was like 17, where he did something terrible, like it wouldn't be like he was 17. Like I'm sure he did because the way him and his family are. I'm sure he has some skeletons in his closet.
sure,
um, you know, but like it's to me it's more or less like you have to allow people a way to come back. And I know that people on the left too, they're so very quick to discredit some people on the right because of some small incidents that might have happened when they were formulating their ideas growing up. So like it's I find it hard to really you know crap all over Justin Trudeau too much for this. But yeah, a lot of people would like for even for recent things, like for something as recent, like if Trudeau was already in government, already in politics, and that happened, absolutely no go, he's done, in my opinion. Like you should know better, right? And a lot of people would definitely do this, where they would, uh, make excuses for people who, while they're in public office, would or at least recently, where it's still their current views, definitely still stick up for people who have these sort of terrible ideas or awful instances, where they shouldn't be forgiven,
you know what?
or people once say, or celebrities when they get into power, then they use that power for bad. Like what's the guy's name? I forget his name now. There's been many various like sex scandals amongst like celebrities, like you know where they've been canceled in that regards, because of things they've done when they are in power, I guess, or when they do have like influence.
I
Yeah.
I don't I for me now, I've kind of I've grown and move on from that. But for me,
Yeah.
which who I do not forgive are the voters, because there's no. We talked about this earlier. There's no
Hmm.
accountability. There's no
Yeah.
accountability. So if voters held their leaders to task, right,
Hmm.
then they would be accountable, and we just don't do that because
Yeah.
politics is about what I can't do. I cannot do this, and I will not do this.
Yeah.
If I put you in power, can you make sure that the can'ts and won'ts, I have less can'ts and won'ts, which ironically means the other party has more can'ts and won'ts.
Yeah.
So it's just I honestly can't. I can't. I can't do this. Please,
Yeah.
I'll vote for you. Just make sure this doesn't happen. It's just how
Yeah.
we're built. So it's. I think it just comes down to, and like I said, it gets better, Chris.
Yeah.
So keep going.
All right, here we go. There's a sentence to forgive those. I'm trying to find where it was. The identity designed to receive pity and donate their forgiveness with pride. Yeah. Okay. Receiving forgiveness, however, devalues a victim's journey. Why? Pity is proud of woe. Accepting forgiveness reveals pity was never an identity to begin with, just a safe space. Victim prophets catered to their plight like children. This guy actually kind of looks like you. It's hilarious. All right. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's cute. Pity is not an identity, nor is it a mechanism to survive, because victims specifically are afraid of the sunken dread, ironically reveals they fear progress. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this. Yeah, totally. I feel that the prophets, the people in power, like they would cater to our feelings just to again get us on board. Yeah, Here we go. Now with COVID 1984. Oh, I see what you did there. I just caught it. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, maybe I'll comment on that a little later.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. COVID 1984. That's good. Did you come up with that, or did you steal
No,
that?
that was in the video I sent you.
You came up with that?
No, that was in the video
was
I
it?
sent you. Yeah.
Okay. I decided not to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. COVID 1984. Choosing the wrong decision will result in death. Sucking dread has gripped society of victims. Are they praying people will die to confirm what the prophet they trust assures them is true? Oh, yeah. This. Ooh, yes. Okay, so let's talk about this then, I guess. Yeah. So, like, I wouldn't say we're opposite on the whole COVID-19 vaccine thing, because we definitely share some similar opinions on it, but we're definitely sort of on different sides. And this is something that I hear people say all the time on both sides, like especially on the side that's definitely trying to convince people that it's in their best interest to get the vaccine. Oh, well, if they just get COVID, then they should be denied any kind of medical treatment, and we should just let them all die off. Fuck them. And like, and again, some people are like, you should have got that shot. Now look at you. You're dying on the deathbed now, huh? Don't you feel dumb now?
Hey, Chris.
And it makes us feel better about ourselves.
Chris?
Yeah.
I think this is the hospital calling me. Hold on. Just hold on.
Okay. We'll edit this out, I guess. We'll just pause here. So yeah, so now with COVID 1984, I remember I made a whole thing that talked about that. Choosing the wrong decision will result in death. I don't know if I actually agree with that, because it doesn't. It won't necessarily lead to your, like, we're all going to die eventually. Like, it's going to happen. Everyone eventually will die for one reason or another. There's going to be people who, of course, take the vaccine and, of course, will survive it because it's most likely very safe for everyone to take. And of course, there's going to be a lot of people who never take the vaccine who won't die for it at all, after all, because even for a lot of people who have gotten COVID, the vast majority has, of course, survived. So I don't know if that is indeed the case. It just seems to be a whole lot more likely to die of COVID than it is of any vaccine at this point, based on all the evidence coming out now that the vaccine's been out for a little bit. I know, of course, long term is not really, shown yet, because this is, after all, so very new. But yeah, so I don't know if I would agree with that result, that it will result in death. Like, everything we do is going to result in death eventually. So, because death is undefeated after all. Sunken dread has gripped society of victims. Yeah. There's actually lots of reports about how there are people, like, on their deathbed, or like in the hospital incubators, and now they're saying, oh, please, can I get the vaccine now? Now that I am suffering from COVID, and now that I have these massive symptoms, and now that I need a tube in order to help me breathe. Like, at that point, it is too late, because that's not how vaccines work. It's not a cure. It's like a preventative thing. It teaches the body to deal with the virus. But if you have the virus, the vaccine isn't really going to do much at this time, unless it helps for future. But if you're already sick with COVID, like, getting a vaccine at that point is not really going to help, at least in the short term. So yeah, there's a lot of that, and I'm sure there are some people who had some side effects on the vaccines that they probably regret as well. I don't know too many about those stories, but I'm sure it happens, because I know there has been people who gotten the blood clots with the AstraZeneca. Very rare, but it has happened, and I'm sure some people have gotten that sunken dread for that decision. Um, are they praying? Yeah, I hope they're not praying. That's the case. Like spiteful people, people who don't understand the whole concept, are doing that. Like people who just want to be right and only care about if it's what's correct or not. Doesn't really. Sorry. I always get fumbled with my words. People who are praying, people who die to confirm what their prophet or what they believe. Those people are terrible. After all, what's more important, trust or truth? Pity is proud, but is it worth dying over? Oh, we're almost done. We were right at the end. All right, cool. Yeah, I certainly hope that people can get over their proudness, over their own biases, and trust that truth is more important. Sorry, that truth is more important than just simply trusting. You know, it's yeah, it's a very tricky topic. This, in my opinion, you just got to go to wherever the evidence is showing based on whatever results are out there. And this is where we've kind of disagreed upon is, I guess, the validity of the various sources out there that are telling you certain things. I seem to be trusting of different sources than you are.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not. I don't have any problems anymore. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I've adopted an extreme point of view.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no point. It's kind of like people arguing before a big game. Well, the Raiders are going to win.
Yeah.
My team's going to win. Screw you. Such and son set us a bum ankle for the past 6 games. Just let the game play out.
Yeah.
That's all I'm at. It's like, between the two of us, one of us is probably going to die. That's as far as I say in my head. So it's like, well, there's no point of arguing. Let's just make the best of it. We can't. I'm not entirely sure that I'm making the best decision.
Well, I think it's actually unlikely that either of us would die one way or the other. Just based on, again, the rates of people actually dying from this. Many people have gotten COVID. Actually, the majority of people have gotten COVID, of course, have pulled through. It's still unlikely that you would even be hospitalized, to be honest, especially at our age at this point, because we're not that old, really. It just I don't know. Like, and I definitely don't think that I'm going to have any issues with getting the vaccine that I have received. So it's if anything, of course I feel you're more likely to, but I still don't think any of us definitely will.
Well, I'm just preparing.
Yeah.
Right now it's like the last thing I want to be is the guy like you spread. Oh, please give me the vaccine. I can't get this. I just want to be like, if that's me, I'm like, fuck it. Okay, this is my time.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try and hold on as best I can, because I just it's
you don't go too many places anyway, though, John.
No, but I like I said, I feel like I kind of I poked the bear a bit.
Yeah.
Recently, and I just wanted to get that feedback, and this is the result of it. The article is kind of like the cherry on top. So I really don't have to have any more conversations anymore. Like, I'll listen to the news if something comes down the pipe that's like damning one way or another, then I'll listen to it. But no, I figure if there's the chance that someone I know is going to die, I just want to make good memories. We don't know what's going to happen. I just want to make good memories. Don't be the type of person who's like would revel in the thought of the other camp dying, because it vindicates you and your resolve to remain steadfast, and whatever word I could think of that makes sense in this sentence. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been that person because I wrote it. I'm talking from experience. But I don't want to be that person. I really don't. I just trying to put myself in the zone. Okay. I've gone through some pretty awful things in my life. The one thing though that I've always been deathly afraid of is choking to death or suffocating to death, and that's what this does. So that for me is kind of like a, how do I get over that? You know, and if I'm going down this path and that happens, I think a lot of it is just, it's about patience and discipline. You know, it's like don't give up, because people have come in and out of, I think it was, which might have been one of the videos you sent me, or it might have one of the personalities on YouTube that's that you follow, and he showed an example. I think it was the Toronto guy. Showed an example of two people. One guy who like went through it and he survived and refused to take the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then there was a woman who went through it, and she worked in the medical industry. I can't remember what, but she had her reservations about the vaccine, obviously. And then after, she says, "I'm taking the vaccine."
Mm-hmm.
And for the reasons I can never recall, why am I bringing this up? People get, I think it's whatever it was about them. They overcame it. I want to believe that maybe it's just that people give up. You know, like they can't take it anymore, and they give up. And that's something that I hope, if I'm in that situation, I can overcome. Because I've overcome mentally some pretty fantastic things, you know, that I'll spend a lifetime trying to explain. So I'm trying to prepare mentally for that, because that's what I have to do if I go down this path. So
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I guess, like the way I look at it, like again, like we talked about this before, but like just for the audience, you know, like I view it as a way to not have to worry about that, because again, like there's been diseases eradicated off the planet with vaccines. Like they really are a marvel of medicine, to be honest, about how they've really have helped people eliminated tons of nasty diseases over the last, 100, 150, 200 years or so. And, I think that this here is something that's going to allow us to get back to our daily lives and not have to worry about this so much. And, if enough people get on board as a collective, then we can probably eliminate it altogether instead of having it always there, And of course, there's many people who cannot take it for different reasons, and that makes it even more important, in my opinion, that everyone does take it. And that's the way I kind of look at it, And I think that's why so many people care about it, because it is such a collective thing. If this wasn't an infectious disease, then it would be, well, first of all, it wouldn't need that big of a problem. It wouldn't have spread as much. It would be more isolated. It would probably just go away, kind of like how SARS did or how Ebola did, where it wasn't really that huge of a massive worldwide thing. It would be more localized. So like it's something that's definitely if everyone can be on the same page, I think we'd be better off with it.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this is a middle ground situation, because we're on a common ground, but we still disagree.
Yeah.
so maybe just one of us is right. Like, oh no, oh no, what if I'm not right?
Well, this is what makes everything like so difficult, because so many times there isn't an obvious answer. Like to me, the evidence points one way for sure. To me, I definitely do believe that I do have the answer. But again, I said it before, I'm not arrogant to think that I know everything. I just basically are pointing from my own personal experiences. And you're, of course, pointing from your own personal experiences. And everyone's is always different, So like, it's like, it does upset me when I see people comment about how, oh, people are idiots because they don't believe this and this and this, or they believe this and this and this. Well, no, it all comes from their own experiences, their own personal journey that got them to where they are. Like if people believe a certain thing, there's usually a reason for it, even if it's something they kind of understand or explain. There's always underlying reasons as to why. and in everyone's mind, they're coming up with the best decision for themselves, or at least in their own heads. Like, of course, people could be wrong,
Right.
but how they got there is not because of stupidity. Usually, it's usually because of experiences that are there. And if they are wrong or incorrect, then it's just hard to come around there. I think that's what it is. It's trying to filter out all of the bad information.
Yeah, you
And
can't.
yeah, but
Yeah,
the same idea, like what's right for one person is not right for others too. Because like I said, there are some people who have legit medical reasons why they should not be taking the vaccine. I don't really know exactly the details of who those people might be, but I know that that is definitely something out there. So for certain people, they should not take it, and that's definitely the case.
yeah.
I'm just not qualified enough to comment on who those people should be.
I think you can't. People people have experiences, and they
Hmm.
happen with or without their consent.
Yeah.
And what you take away from that may or may not save your life,
Hmm.
right? Or you may die prematurely. You know, with
Yeah.
is it through no fault of your own? That's debatable, but
Yeah.
it's Chris. How am I going to relate to you? How are you going to relate to me? You can only go so far, right? And then it's like it just becomes unpalatable to a point where it's like, no, I'm good. No more. I'm good. I'm good. No more. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so looks like we're at the end of the road, and as customary
Hmm.
in the Good versus Good podcast, the guest will now rate my article.
Yeah. So like I actually agree with pretty much everything in this article. Um, we just sort of like disagree on what it all means in the end, or like what is this? What is the conclusion? What is like the underlying conclusion of how to rectify this? That's where we kind of disagree. But I definitely agree with everything here in this article, and it's and if everyone could have this sort of in mind when we are talking about tough issues, then it is we'll find a lot more common ground for sure. Because like I think everything on this article is bang on, except what we do forward, and that's about it, right? And that's about it. And that's ultimately theirs. So I think I'm going with authentic on this one, more so than I agree, because I think it's stronger than that. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go with helpful. Um, like, I don't know how you put this on the scale, whatever, but helpful because I think in the end this will be more helpful because if people can understand like the message here or the heart of what's going on here, you can apply this sort of logic to anything. The whole idea that we have to be able to admit that we're wrong and not be unfallible and actually try to open our minds and change our minds to be open to other opinions. And I think if people have this sort of in mind whenever they argue anything, then we'll have a lot healthier society. So I think helpful, even though I want to say authentic as well, but I think helpful is actually a better way of saying it because I think this will definitely be an article that I think will be very helpful, especially for people who are very opinionated and very strong-willed in their own ideas,
Hmm.
and people who definitely fall into this trap of uh, finding a what was the word you told false prophet, yeah, or yeah, believing themselves into a false prophet in some regard. So I'm gonna go there. Yeah,
Bing.
there you
Oh, who put that?
somebody else.
Oh
Somebody else is reading
shit!
your stuff, John.
Someone's reading my shit. I didn't do that.
Well, somebody did. I'm number two.
Whoa! I gotta check my metrics on that. I gotta check my metrics on that.
You're
Holy
starting to
shit!
get a following.
People could.
Someone might, someone might actually listen to this, John. You know?
Holy shit! I don't. I probably should through through the deduction. I could probably figure out who it is.
Yeah.
It's only going to be I could count on my hand the amount of people
Yes.
that even know my website exists. So like,
Yes.
it's not my mother. Let's see. I advertise on Instagram, but I only got like 3-4 people.
Maybe it was Alex. I guess number two.
Maybe he's.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if it was him because usually I'd have to tell him about it.
Yeah.
Something's up, but cool. I can't wait until this is all filled up, eh? Can you imagine down the line when it's like, oh, you get like a nice little sampling of the.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hope for, anyways.
Yeah. I guess courageous works as well, actually. Like that's actually not a bad one. I kind of overlooked that at first. You know, yeah, because again, you kind of have this at the scale. I don't kind of view it like that.
I mean,
I think it's definitely a very helpful way of looking. I think that's a good way of doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it. That's not a slight on me. You're really helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Hey, fuck you.
For real.
Fuck you.
Yeah,
call me
for real.
helpful. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. Call me courageous. Why could you call me courageous?
It's definitely none of these things because I think I agree with pretty much everything except for like the bottom line conclusion moving forward. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, I don't know. I guess that's it.
That's it. Well,
right.
we'll find out later. Well, you won't, but I'll find out later if I'm going to die. This may be the last podcast. And I did. You know what? It turned out I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. This is not about quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Not about quantity. So
no.
This I've only have 4 podcasts in my name. Then oh well, I don't have to do.
That's something.
Yeah. All right, everyone. All right, Chris. Thanks again for coming on the podcast, and thank everyone out there who's listening to this. Thanks a lot. Please do try and comment and rate on my site so I know you're out there. There's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff on my website. I've spent 7 years doing what I do, and I actually had to stop myself from creating content because it's just getting out of hand. So I just got to work with what I got. You agree or disagree with something, just reach out to me and we can have a conversation, okay? But until then, I have to say good day and good night to the Good versus Good podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.